Yeah, I'm Etienne. I work in the analog team at Korg. I'm a software engineer, so I worked on the operating system of the Prologue, the multi-engine, the DSP effects, and all the aspects of the SDK and the open environment for the Prologue. So for musicians, it means that down the line there will be additional oscillators, modulation effects, delays, and reverbs that you will be able to add to your Prologue to enrich the sound, give a wider diversity, things that are more unique oscillators with specific touches from diverse developers in the community. In the next week, we will be publishing kind of a beta version of the SDK so that developers can have a look at how it's structured and see what they're able to do with it. And for Superbooth, we did a limited edition of a development board that we gave around to some developers so that they can get started without having a Prologue in their hands. So the development board is like this. So this is essentially all the core digital components of the Prologue on the tiny board. So you have the main CPU with the SDRAM, where the effects are running and where most of the processing of events USB support is happening. And there is a single voice chip here. This is the microcontroller that controls the analog circuitry on the voice boards of the Prologue and also runs the multi-engine. So on the Prologue, on the 16 voice model, you have 16 of these chips, each of them running an instance of the multi-engine alongside the VCOs. And the custom oscillators are code that you would actually send to that chip to run on all of these 16 chips. So the SDK allows you to build these custom units. There's actually 4 types of custom code you can build. You can build oscillators for the multi-engine. You can build modulation effects to complement the chorus, phaser, flanger, and ensemble. You can build custom delays and custom reverb. These have all different limitations. So yeah, the oscillators are limited to 32 kilobytes, for instance. They all have slightly different limitations, but on the delay and reverb side, you have access to SDRAM for long delay lines and things like that. Yeah, so the SDK is a very bare bones environment for writing C and C++ code to make those custom modules. Yeah, so I showed the overall workflow of testing code on the board. So the code you write it through your own editor, and I have these little binary tools that allow you to talk to the board. The communication with the board and the Prologue is done through SysX. It's a relatively simple protocol, but I provide some developer tools to communicate with the board, load your code in there, and yeah, essentially simplify the process. Yeah, the board has, so you have an audio output and an audio input, so you can hear the sound of your oscillator or of your effects. The audio input is not on the Prologue. Since there's only one voice, we freed up channels on the ADCs, and we use that for an external input, so you could test only the effects independently. Okay, so in the coming weeks, I'll be publishing a beta version of the SDK for developers, but in June there will be a firmware upgrade for the Prologue, which will open up the SDK, and also there will be a release of the Librarian Application. So along with, just like the other synthesizer in the log series, we have a Librarian Application to manage the programs on the synthesizer. And to this application, there will be an additional section which will allow you to load and remove custom code from the Prologue. And this will be released at the same time as the firmware upgrade in June.